We were talking about the state of the Conservative Party, which I'm going to park to a degree, unless you want to weave it into your answers to any of my specific questions. But I want to talk about the state of the UK, how we're seen internationally, and also the state of our constitution. And in terms of how we are seen internationally, Moody's, the credit rating organisation, has reduced our credit rating overnight to now a bit risky. The international press is even crueler. France's Le Figaro said trusts weaken the country's image internationally. Italy's Chiara della Sierra joked that Great Britain seems to have fallen into political instability. I mean, we used to joke, our generation did, about, he's the Prime Minister of Italy because it's his turn. I mean, that is worrying for our standing as one of the great economies and indeed one of the great democracies of the world, is it not?
It is, absolutely. I mean, it's always hard to tell, isn't it, what today's headlines that can become tomorrow's fish and chip paper. But so we can exaggerate the extent of these headlines, but it does seem that in the United States, their view of Britain at the moment is this is the worst crisis of credibility for 50 years. And that view is replicated broadly, and it's replicated in the markets, and it's replicated in that credit valuation there. So, this is bad, and it could get worse. I think that is the key point, Alistair, that wherever we are now, we might not be at the worst. If, for example, Boris Johnson came back and he has no credibility as somebody who is able to have a firm grip on the country's finances for all his many and considerable qualities, sure. That isn't it. Sure. So unless they produce somebody who really is credible, that will increase the impetus for a general election, and that would just be more stability. Yeah.
And the interesting thing that struck me reading through that list as well was the notion of soft diplomacy and leadership, that the United Kingdom, not least under Boris Johnson, to be fair, has made phenomenal progress in rallying an alliance against Putin over his invasion of Ukraine and bringing slightly reluctant people onto the dance floor like France and Germany. You've got to have status and you've got to have respect to be able to do that. And here we are waiting for China's next move over Taiwan.
Absolutely. There's a real political and military hole at the moment in this country. Boris Johnson found it difficult as Foreign Secretary to establish a post-Brexit role for Britain. And in his first 2 years as Prime Minister, he found that difficult also. Ukraine, if you like, came to his rescue, and it brought out the very best in him, yes. as happens with leadership. Yeah. There's an element of luck. Is the crisis the right one for you? Gordon Brown with the global financial crisis, he wasn't doing so well on other things, but that was something that he could do well on, as was Ukraine. And the quality of his leadership was unquestionably pugnacious and strong, showed up other nations. Again, we can be a little Englander here and see how it looks here. From a global perspective, the leadership isn't quite as important as we might think it is. Nevertheless, he was right. He was on the right side of that war. Now, what's happened since he's gone? Liz Truss had no credibility as a Foreign Secretary. We have a Foreign Secretary with no credibility as a Foreign Secretary. We need serious grown-ups in that job. Whoever wins needs to put in somebody